we're going into something hot. So obviously the alert factor went up. And as we're working around the corner, I see some movement up the canyon, and here come two growers, and they're both dressed in OD green BDUs. One guy's got the AK, the other guy's got the machete, and they're walking in a formation like you would have on your teams or I do on mine, Vince. They're walking in a two-man formation, static line, and just working slow. And the guy on the back end is constantly checking his 6 o'clock. He's moving slowly. He's not making real furtive movements. So he's got some skill sets like what our tail gunners would do on our tactical teams. And the guy in front is being very quiet, and he's kneeling down and he's like trimming plants. He's adjusting little water drip lines. And I'm like, and I got my buddy with me. He's not a cop. And I'm like, okay, man, this is different. We have just seen something I've never seen before. These guys do not belong here. They were Sinaloa cartel guys. They were growers straight out of Mexico that had been in play for a long time, I'm sure, in California. And I don't know this yet, but I'm about to.
Yeah.
And so fortunately, we're hugging a creek bank. I've got my red dot on my AR around the corner in case these guys come around the corner. They're working right to us. One guy's obviously armed. This is the last thing I want to do is get in a gunfight today with my biologist buddy with no radio comms to, radio anybody. That would have been an interesting thing to explain to my bosses. And we just stayed tight. We didn't move. We used our field craft. He was very woodsy, my partner, fortunately. And these guys got 15 yards from us, kind of looked right through us where we were hiding in the creek. And they worked their way out and then up the canyon and disappeared. And, the oh shit moment was like, all right, we're going to sit tight for a while. We're going to creep out of here. We're not going any further. We've seen enough. And we boost out of that big mountain climb and we get out. And I'm processing everything now. Well, I got to talk to some people. This is not a game warden thing. We're not going to come in and raid this with a couple of partners, right? And now it's talking to narcotic team task forces, DEA, other agencies. This was the first introduction I had to a really squared away tier 1 tactical unit with the Santa Clara County Sheriff's Office and their marijuana eradication team. And those were all the snipers from their SWAT team on that. And just good guys. They all had hunting and fishing backgrounds. They came from other parts of the country. So I didn't know it yet, but I had inherent lovers of those conservation things we love, wildlife, waterlands, waterways, and they saw that threat to our wildlife as well as to our public. And now we kind of led the charge on how to get those guys in there. About 3 weeks later, we raided it with about 20, 30 officers. We chased the guys, not effectively. They got away. I saw some things we could have done differently moving forward from that. We eradicated 7,000 plants that morning in that one grow site. We did not know at the time, Vince, that the cartels were bringing up the EPA banned neurotoxins that are basically insecticides that were banned in the U.S. 20 years ago because the EPA determined how deadly they are, even when they're diluted and put on our crops. But Sinaloa, the other cartels were bringing them straight up from Tijuana because they are available in third world countries. And this stuff was all over the plants. It was all over in those grow sites. And we did not know the toxicity of this stuff yet, or that we were even exposed to it. We would later learn that. And we cut the plants. We left. A Payhawk helicopter came in from Moffett Field, the 129th counter drug. I did my first hoist line into a big Payhawk. That was a cool morning to do that. Obviously, you've worked out of a lot of Black Hawk ships, I'm sure, as well. And I would spend the next 15 years working with military assets like your old teams, doing counter drug domestically and with foreign guys that have been over, fighting the GWAT. So never saw that coming. But the one thing we didn't see that morning of such a flood of information on that first operation was how many things I felt we could have done different. And the fact that once everything was eradicated, it was like, okay, call in the ship. It's been a hard, arduous day. We're going to get out of here. I'm like, whoa. There's, 300 pounds of nitrous fertilizer right here. And there's, camps and dirty oils and human excrement. And there's just all this destruction to the water, and all these banks are cut. All this vegetation's gone. This is a train wreck, man. This water's poisoned. And I knew that this wasn't just a creek. This was a creek that sustained steelhead trout, which are migratory trout that come up from the ocean, come upstream, spawn in fresh water, and leave. And they're threatened and endangered on the federal level, where they're almost gone on the Pacific side of the country. And this directly affected that. And the word I got from everybody on the teams, from the other agencies was, what, that's not our thing, man. We just raid, we do what we got to do. We're not funded for this, and we don't have the time. And I understood it wasn't a dig. We were making new partners, but I realized that the environmental element is important. And this is what's going to get people fired up, because people are starting to not care about the weed issue. We know it's going to be regulated. They're looking at bigger fish to fry, but they didn't know these impacts. So from then on, we just started to move forward. So fast forward to a year later, August 5th, 2005, myself, I've just promoted to lieutenant of 7 wardens in 3 counties. And I've got 2 young wardens with me on their first grow raid, with that same group of really squared away sheriff's deputies that I mentioned before, the Santa Clara County Sheriff's marijuana eradication team. And the 6 of us are going into a grow site in the affluent hills of Los Gatos, Silicon Valley, basically. And we're hiking up on an August morning. We're looking down at Cisco, Facebook, eBay, all the tech capital companies. And we're an eye shot of this in the Silicon Valley foothills. And now we're into a massive grow site. We're crawling through tunnels. It is in the middle of harvest time. There's a couple of hard gunmen in there defending the grow. Same type of deal. Green BDUs, SKSs, pistols, you name it. Patron saint monikers that I would later learn about, either embroidered on their belts or in pendants or in tattoos, things like that. Didn't know anything about that yet. And we got an ambush, 1 shot fired from one of their gunmen as we were moving into the grow, and it happened to strike my young warden partner who had been on a year through both legs. So we had 1 AK round, 7.62 by 39, steel core full metal jacket, go through his left leg and exit and tumble through his other right leg. So he's bleeding out of 4 holes now. I'm now in a gunfight with that shooter who's coming back around the corner to see what he's doing. Unbeknownst to me, I've got another gunman, this bad guy's partner, in a fortified position, concealed 7 yards ahead of me with a sawed-off shotgun with a 12 gauge with buckshot and another pistol. And literally, if my sheriff's deputies had not engaged that guy and seen him with their M4s, we wouldn't be having this conversation now, and nothing would have developed on us continuing to do that. So in that 8-second, little firefight, everything changed. Everything absolutely changed. That was the first gunfight, Vince, where an officer in the country had been hit by one of these cartel growers, and it happened to be a young game warden. So you can imagine what the governor's office was saying. You can imagine what the press in the Bay Area, where they're like, a game warden just got shot and near fatally. He's being air extracted after waiting 3 hours for an air rescue. He's going into surgery. What are game wardens doing in this, man? That's not their job.
Right.
But brother, no one realized it is absolutely our job because of the environmental mandate and because we work in the woods. So
but
bonds were starting to be built. Yeah.
Yeah. Until that point, they've never seen anything like it.
Exactly.
We cut through the partisan talking points. We're not interested in perpetuating fear. We're interested in seeking truth, hearing what's really going on America's borderland.